Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Hey, Tammy. Oh, all right. Wait, I think you're still muted. Oh, hold on. Are you talking? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay. I just woke up. I was taking a nap.
Oh, good.
uh
You catch one of my presentations live.
huh.
And you got the book, right? Yeah, I remember you
I
said you
got it.
got it.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm
Thank
gonna have people start. I'm gonna tell them to start sending me screenshots of their faces with the book.
you. Okay.
So I'm not expecting too many people. I tried to limit because I did 2 sessions. This is my second one this week. So
Okay.
I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 people might show up all together. So
Okay.
I'll give people another couple minutes to join in. Otherwise, it's just gonna be me and you.
All right. No problem.
And did you start reading it yet?
Yeah, I did. Actually,
Okay.
I started actually the 7 money milestones, but I was going back and forth to different chapters.
Okay. So the presentation I'm gonna go through tonight is like a 2 parts, and the 7 money milestones is actually the second part.
That's
So
fine.
you'll see the first half of the book tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Can you see my screen again?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So it's only 4 of us. I was sharing with Tammy earlier that I wanted this to be an intimate, workshop and webinar because I definitely want to interact. A lot of you get my emails. I hope I'm not annoying you with my emails, but my goal is to continuously share educational information. And so I was limiting who I was inviting to each session because I did one on Tuesday. And depending on how these work out, I think they've been doing very well. I want to keep this on a regular basis. So as I go through this, if there's specific topics or information, like if there's something like, Shantae, I really want to learn about my 401k, let me know and I'll do a workshop just on the 401k. This particular webinar is a part of a masterclass about the book, How Money Works book. So I know Alex and Tina's, you guys' books are still in the mail, but don't worry if you don't have the book yet, because this will go through a lot of the screenshots from the book. And I want this to be really interactive. So there's a chat feature. If there's questions that you want to ask, feel free to unmute yourselves. I'm going to mute everybody just now. I have 2 big pit bulls in the basement, so you might hear them barking from time to time. Luckily, my little ones are with their father, so you shouldn't hear any kids screaming in the background. But I'm at home, so I just want to give everybody that heads up. So again, I want this to be interactive. Feel free to join in and, raise your hand if anything comes up. But I really love the book for those who have it and for those who are looking for it, because it's a very realistic approach to our finances. This isn't just like, oh, well, save money in an emergency fund, or you should contribute to your 401k. Like, we already know those things, right? If you know me, I like to give practical, things that you can do right now, right away, to start improving your finances. And so, we really look at, I pride myself on teaching, all of my clients and individuals that I work with, real strategies and concepts when it comes to building your finances. So in the book, there's a whole cast of people, which I really like, because when you start to read it, I think you'll be able to relate to one of these people. Like Zoe, she's like that fresh girl right out of high school, going to college. You have George, who's already retired. Dana is a single mom. Sarah's, she looks a little older to me, but I think she's like 30 years old, 32, just getting started in her career. Clark is really funny. He's like the idiot. He's like the guy who knows nothing about money. But, and so as you read the book, I think it's interesting that you might find yourself, appealing to one of these people, as we go through it. But the ultimate goal is we want to start changing our mindset about how we think about money. We want to think like the wealthy, because like even right now during this time of a pandemic, there are things that we can do to better and improve our finances. Oh, you know what? Let me reshare my screen. Okay, I'm already sharing it. Sorry. You know, and I want people to think past, you know, conventional things that we might have thought of was the way to do things about money. That's not, you know, this will teach you new ways to think of, oh, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. So when we look at, I'm sorry, when we look at education, you know, and that's what I like to deal with first and foremost, is just having people being educated. I want you to be knowledgeable. But one thing that I always teach in my webinars is that, you know, how you hear the word knowledge is power. I believe that applied knowledge is power. Don't just take this information and do nothing with it. Like, the whole point is to take what you learned tonight and actually apply it to your finances. You know, and they put a quote here: it's morally wrong to allow a sucker to keep his money. So when we think of the average person, you know, I like the book because they're calling you a sucker, but it's not like in a mean or bad way. It's just the reality of, we need to just think differently about our finances. So, I'm ahead of myself. The word sucker is a strong word, but when you don't know how money works, it does suck. You know, you waste time, you don't have freedom, you don't have income the way you want it, just because we're not educated on some of these topics. So I wanted to just kind of, you know, stable ourselves by thinking, you know, what we think about, we bring about. And your reality will largely depend on how you think about money. I was mentioning earlier, you know, a lot of people look at me like, oh, Shantae made it, she's rich. I'm not nowhere near rich. I didn't grow up learning about any of this stuff either. I grew up very poor on the south side of Chicago. My mother and father had nothing. They didn't have anything. But thank God somebody sat down and took time to educate me about finances when I was 20 years old. And that's when I first started to work on my own finances. So, you know, just, I want you to, as we go through these slides, just start thinking like, what things can I do differently and strategically and wisely to improve my finances? So in this part, we're not going to go through all 5 of these topics. Normally this masterclass is 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. I'm just going to kind of pick and go through some of these concepts. These are all in the book. The Power of Compound. Actually, the only one that's not in the book is the $1 Million Baby. So that's the one I will not touch on tonight. But we'll talk about why financial literacy is important. And we'll go through 3 concepts, which is the power of compound interest, the time value of money, and the rule of 72. The rule of 72 is actually my favorite concept. When I first learned that, I was like, oh my God, it blew my mind. So we'll talk about that toward the end of the hour. And, you know, just to get started, financial illiteracy, it is the #1 economic crisis in the world. You know, this is the most major issue, and we see it right now, where if you don't know how money works, this is the next big crisis that's going to hit us. And so we hear that term financial literacy, but what does it mean? It simply means understanding how to earn, save, spend, manage, and invest your money. Just think about literacy. The term literacy means that you know how to read, you know how to write. You know, what if you did not know how, I mean, being financially illiterate is the same equivalent to not learning how to read or write. You know, we deal with money on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of people don't know that they're, you know, just due to ignorance, they're making really bad decisions when it comes to finances. And I was just talking about this earlier. A recent study of financial literacy found that only 30% of the people in the world are actually financially literate, that they actually know how money works, which means there's over 5 billion suckers out there who don't know how money works. And again, when I say how money works, knowing these concepts, knowing these terms and things of that nature. So financial literacy is also the #1 economic crisis in America. You know, when we look at what's happening in America, 44% of Americans don't have enough money in cash to cover a $400 emergency. That's why we see so many people who are having issues with the pandemic. They're saying like, I don't even know how to, you know, make my rent payment next month because they just don't have any money set aside. 43% of student loan borrowers, I always have trouble saying that word, borrowers. Anyway, they're not making their payments. And to me, that's a daunting number. We hear right now, a lot of people are saying to our politicians, can you cancel our student loan debt? Like, I don't want hazard pay. I want you to cancel my student loans. I truly believe if there is another economic crisis, like, you know, how we had the real estate bubble burst back in 2008, I believe that our next crisis will be because of the amount of outstanding student loans. That's just my personal belief. I think the government has to figure out something, because outside of people's, mortgage, their next biggest bill or debt payment is their student loans, more than their credit cards, more than their auto loans. And then we look at the average credit card debt that people are holding. They're carrying about $10,000 on a month-to-month basis. And so when you look at how much will that be in the future, if it takes me 30 years to pay off that $10,000 debt, we're looking at over $38,000 that I will be, paying money out to do so. And then this is another scary statistic. 33% of American adults have zero retirement savings. They have nothing saved for retirement. And I have people talk all the time like, oh, I want to retire when I'm 55. I'm like, how? There's no money saved. That's a very real reality for a lot of people. And I hate to start off so daunting, but I mean, we can't sugarcoat the reality of what's happening out there. And then in a recent survey, U.S. adults said on average, they lost over $1,200 just because they didn't understand basic household or finance issues. So we're losing money just because we might not know how to answer a question about, how should I take money out my 401k or taxes or anything. We're losing money just because we're not educated. And this is the funny part, only 21 states in the U.S. require high schools to teach one class in personal finance. Now, I know my high school that I graduated from, we had no classes in personal finance. And here, I think on the next screen, we show, oh no, we don't. In the book, I think it shows the actual states. I'll tell you right now, Illinois is not one of them. For those of us who live in Illinois, they don't require that. A couple years ago, this was only 17 states. So we can't depend on our state school systems, our public school systems, to teach us personal finances. In a recent survey, American young adults were asked what course would they have benefit the most? And a majority said money management, personal finance. I was telling, Tammy earlier, what if every 17, 18-year-old read this book before they graduated? Just imagine how many mistakes they could have avoided in the future when they became an adult. We learn a lot by trial and error. Our goal as a company, being the How Money Works company, is to teach people just about financial literacy. And just again, when we don't know about money, we just end up in this sucker cycle, often for a lifetime. And what does that mean? So the sucker, they get a paycheck and they hand the money over to someone else to help build their wealth with that sucker's money. So it's just saying that you because you don't know how to reinvest in yourself, you're basically giving your money away to someone else to get them rich. So we want to learn how to get ourselves rich, right? How to build our own wealth. And when we think about what are people spending their money on, we're spending a lot of money on takeout. And I'll tell you, I'm guilty. Since this pandemic, like the first 2 weeks, I was like Betty Crocker, right? I was cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But man, like the last 5, I've been Uber Eats. Kids, you guys want Wendy's? Like, I know Tammy's like, me too, right? Like, I've been spending so much money on eating out food. But that's just because of the pandemic, what we're dealing with. But look, we're spending money on coffee, alcohol, clothing, lottery tickets. Oh my God, I had a lady I met with one day. She was spending $400 a month in lottery tickets. Subscription services. This is one piece of advice that I've been telling people, is that especially like right now, there's a lot of things that we can't do because we're ordered to stay home. Like cancel your gym membership, cancel these, different things that we don't use just because of this pandemic. But in general, this is where people have no problem spending their money on a regular basis. This is the average spending habit of the average American. But when we think about retirement, we really need to think about, well, how much money would I need? You really need about 70% of your current retirement income to live on in retirement. So for example, let's say you make $100,000 a year. You need to have enough saved in retirement to probably live off of about $70,000 per year. Because when we retire, the general theory is, oh, my expenses will be lower in retirement. And the big portion of that is probably because, one, in retirement, you probably won't have as much debt. Like your mortgage should be paid off. A lot of your debt shouldn't be there. That's why you probably just don't need as much to live on in retirement. But when we look at the way people are actually, the way they're saving for retirement or projecting to use monies in retirement, most people are depending on Social Security, which will only cover about 40% of the amount of money that you'll need. So think about that. I'm not saying that's nothing bad, but Social Security, it does not pay out a lot. I know a lot of individuals, that's their only source of income. It's fixed income. It doesn't change, and they're barely getting by with that. And then for those of us who have access to a workplace retirement account, like the 401k, they on average save about $195,000 to have for retirement in their account. But when we think about it, think of it as like flying an airplane. You really only have about one wing if you're just depending on Social Security and your 401k to keep you afloat in retirement. So we really need to start thinking about what personal savings can I save and accumulate for my own retirement, where I'm not depending on the government and I'm not depending on just what I have through the workplace. And so, and then another thing is, nobody is saving enough money. Nobody. So if you're thinking like, oh, Shantae, I know I'm not saving enough. You already know that. Don't feel bad. Nobody is. Like millennials, they have an average saved about $23,000 for retirement. And millennials are not the younger generation. Those are the Gen Zs, like the 20-year-olds, the crazy ones who are eating the Tide Pods. Like I'm in the millennial generation. We're in our 30s. We have families. We're almost 40 years old. We have homes. Then you have the Gen Xers. That's the group that's right in the middle. I would say like your 40 or 50-year-olds. I call them the sandwich generation. They have older parents that they have to be responsible for, and then young adults that they still have to be responsible for. So it's like, where do you take care of yourself in the middle? When do you start to save money for yourself? You had a question, Tammy?
I was saying that's me.
Okay, yeah, right in the middle, right? The Gen Xer.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the exact case, because in that age group, it's like you're trying to think about yourself, but you got too many people around you that you have to worry about. And then we have my other group, the baby boomers. This would be, I would say, like you're 60 and above. Number one, a lot of baby boomers are very conservative. They've been through, wars and recessions and all types of stuff. So they really are very conservative when it comes to their saving. They don't want to lose any money. And because of their conservativeness, they've only saved about, on average, $152,000 for retirement. So we just know nobody's saving enough money. But if you're a part of this, masterclass, you're trying to, not be a part of the statistic, right? You want to have enough money to save, to be comfortable in retirement. And the one thing that I tell people is just, at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you save. It's about, will you meet your monthly income need in retirement? Like right now, you might live off of $5,000 per month in retirement. But would that be the same? You might only need $4,000 a month in retirement. So one calculation that I help a lot of my clients with is like, say, for example, if you have Social Security and you need $4,000 a month to pay your bills, we already know Social Security will probably give us, I don't know, $1,000 to $2,000 per month. Your 401k might give us another $500 per month. There's still a gap though. We still have this gap from what you will receive from Social Security or your 401k versus what you actually need. So when we don't have enough saved, there are consequences. Most people have to re-enter the workforce. They retire for a year or two and we find them back at work. A lot of times people have to restrict their lifestyles. I see a lot of people who are retired, but they're like, man, Shantae, I can't travel. I want to do things for my grandchildren and I can't do it, just because they don't have the extra funds. We see a lot of adults living with their adult children, just because they can't afford to stay, maintain themselves in retirement. But let's look at what happens when you save, when you just incorporate, your own savings. At that point, when you retire at 67, and this is just a hypothetical, the goal is to have reliable income that we can depend on to maintain us the rest of our lives and to potentially leave a legacy. I don't want to have just enough. I want to leave something behind for my family. That's when we think about having a true legacy that we leave behind. So a quick quote from the book is how suckers think. You know, the have and have nots. It's the way things have been. And I guess it's the way things will always be. So that's just kind of saying like, well, I grew up poor. That's how it'll always be. I'll never be rich. But the wealthy think, you know what? I might not have learned about personal finances, but I know that if I get some proper education, even considering the economic crisis, I'm not worried about that. It doesn't have to be my personal crisis. You know, so just because what's happening in the world doesn't mean that it has to affect me personally. So a lot of this is behavioral coaching as well. When I'm helping people, you know, just think differently about their finances. So I want to take a quick moment to grab some water. Any questions about anything? Anybody want to share maybe about their experiences, or, you know, did that kind of nudge you a little bit, like disturb you at any point at all? You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Oh, this is Tammy. What I was going to say is every time I try to save, then something comes up. But right now, I still have one child in college. He should be out this December. And my goal is to start saving, you know, more consistently after that happens. So that's the one thing I am missing right now is the personal savings.
Yeah, and we're working together, so we're working on that.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. I'm getting it in order.
Yeah, and a lot of times I tell people, especially moms, you know, we'll do anything for our kids. We'll even pull money out of our retirement to pay for their college. So I think as a woman, that's just something that we have a unique, you know, it's a unique situation that the average man won't have to deal with, but that we have to deal with because of who we are.
Right.
And, you know, I'll never let my child fail. I'll always be there to bail them out, right? If I can.
Yeah. That's me. Got my daughter through. She's on her own now. She lives in Alabama. She has a daughter, my grandbaby. She's 9 months now. So
Oh yeah.
any extra money it's been going her way as well. So you know, it's just a lot going on right now.
Yeah, and it's hard to try to focus on yourself, but want to help others as well. But you know, I always tell people that, you know, when we get on the airplane, what's the first thing they tell us? If those masks fall, you put your mask on first.
Right.
Before you can help anybody else, you have to be financially sound to help anybody. So
definitely.
Well, good. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thank you. So we're going to talk about one of my favorite concepts called the power of compound interest, because this is how you truly build wealth. And basically what it refers to is your growth potential for your money over time by compounding, which is the interest being paid on top of other interests. So, and I'll explain the difference between the type of interest that you can earn, the interest rates that you can earn on your money. So I want to just do a quick story lesson with John D. Rockefeller. For some reason, I'm like very intrigued by like the early capitalists of our, you know, U.S. economy. Like these guys were hardcore. They were labor abusers. You know, they stole money to create their riches in so many ways. But I'm always intrigued how they still became these multimillionaires and billionaires. So John D. Rockefeller, I like this story. So as a boy, Rockefeller lent $50 to a local farm. The money was to be paid with 7% interest. A year later, the farmer, he returned that $50 plus the $3.50 in interest. So he earned $53.50. Around the same time, Rockefeller was hired to dig potatoes for 3 days, and he was paid $1.12. So an excerpt from Rockefeller's obituary said, when he entered into these two transactions, which was either loaning the money to the farmer or earning my own money by digging up potatoes, he said in his ledger, he realized that his pay for his work was less than 1/3 the interest on his $50. And he learned from that point to resolve to make as much money as he could to make as much money work for him as he could. Basically, alternatively, for him working for his money. So he said, man, I earned all that interest from the bank, and it was so much more than what I earned on my own. So kind of keep that story in mind. Think about you working for your money. How many hours can you work in a day? Like we're all limited to the same 24 hours, right? But one thing I love about interest is, in particular, compounding interest, that is your money working for you. And it doesn't stop. There's no limit on how much you can earn because your money is growing independently from your personal efforts. I don't have to do anything in particular to earn interest. And one thing I love about it is compounding interest. It never calls off. It never gets sick. It never goes to sleep. 24/7, it keeps working. I can't work 24/7 and earn an income, but my money can continue to work 24/7 and build for me by, leveraging this concept of compounding interest. So you have to think about ways of making money and out of nothing. I have ways of making money that you know nothing of. So I like to kind of break it down in this way. Let's understand the difference between simple interest, which is what most people think about when it comes to earning interest on their money, and compound interest. So the simple interest is, what if Rockefeller's farmer, he just wanted to borrow the money for more than 1 year? There's two ways that he could have agreed to earning this money and having it paid back, is saying, okay, well, you could just borrow this money from me and pay simple interest, which means the farmer would only pay interest on the original loan amount every single year. And I'm going to show numbers behind this. Or you could pay me back with compound interest, which means that every year you're going to pay me interest, not only on what the original loan amount was, but also on top of all the interest that I had accrued from prior years. So what does this look like when we talk about growing our money? All right, look at Tina, her little baby. Is that your grandbaby down there? She's like, yeah, cute little, you can see all the hair is spiking up. Oh, look at her. She's so cute. She's like, Grandma, I'm learning about money too. So when we look at simple interest versus compound interest, and let's just kind of convert that $50 loan into $1,500. And we want to think about, let's say that $1,500 was loaned out over a 14-year time period. And whether it's simple interest or compound interest, the agreed upon interest rate was 9% every single year. And Rockefeller would get his loan back plus interest around retirement. Let's look at this from a numbers perspective. So this is how simple interest works. We started, let's say he took that loan with the $1,500 in year one. And if he was only paid 9% every single year, it would only be 9% on that $1,500. That would never change. So this, I got somebody coming in. So this money that he's earning and growing, the interest that's paid is only on that $1,500. So after 50 years of doing that, he would have only grown that money to a little over $8,200. So not a whole lot, he earned some interest, but definitely not a lot of interest. Hi, Romanita, thanks for joining. Let's look at an example of compound interest. So this is a totally different way, but still earning interest, right? We're earning 9% interest, but instead of paying interest on just the $1,500 every year, what that person would be doing is paying interest on the $1,500 plus whatever that 9% interest was the first time. And then every year. So let's say I started with $1,500. Now it's grown to $2,000. Now you're paying me 9% interest on that $2,000. Then another year comes, my money has grown. Now you're paying me interest on $3,000, whatever it is. So that's how your money can actually grow. So if we leverage compounding interest, that's actually the way that our money can grow, typically 16 times more than simple interest. So my question to you is, which person do you want to be? Do you want to be the one who only earned, $270,000 over time? Or do you want to be the one who earned over 3.7 million? That's why it's important to, number one, get great interest rate. 9% is not really guaranteed everywhere, but that's the way you grow money. So when you're saving your money, we want to leverage compounding interest. We want our money to grow on top of each other, not just, so like think of, for example, people put money in the bank into CDs, certificates of deposit. I think most people have heard of those. It's basically a lump sum amount of money that you give to the bank. And they say, okay, thanks for giving us this money. We'll give you 2% interest and give it back to you. That's simple interest. What if they gave you, 2% every single month that you loaned them? So that's compounding interest. So the whole point is that you want to take advantage of compounding interest, not just simple interest. So any questions about that? Does that make sense? Just remember, compounding interest. That's what I want for my money to grow. So I don't want to go through this. I'm going to skip a couple of these slides. Okay, this is what I want to go through. So a lot of times people so they know they should earn interest on their money, when they're saving it or investing it. But a lot of times they don't realize that how much your interest is, also known as the rate of return. Your rate of return is how much money are you earning back. That actually does matter, because some people say, oh, well, Shantae, I'm getting 2% interest in my savings account at the bank. Well, why would you get 2% when you could probably get 6%? Let's look at that, because those interest rates do make a big difference. Let me just show it this way. So let's say, for example, you were saving $178 a month. You are 25 years old, and you say, you know what, I'm just going to save that much until I retire. So the green section here is somebody who was saving $178 per month and earning only 1% interest. So great, they're saving, but because they only earned 1% interest, they only accumulated $111,000. So not too bad. I mean, something's better than nothing, I guess. Somebody who was earning 3% interest and they were saving that $178 over time. Now they are earned after that same time frame, they would have actually accumulated $179,000. What if we doubled that? What if you were earning 6% interest? You would have accumulated over $400,000. But look at this one. This was a big one. What if you earn 9% interest consistently? This is compound interest over time. You would have accumulated over $1 million. So what's the difference in these scenarios? It's just the interest rates. It's still the same $178. Nothing has changed about that. So the difference between earning 1% or 9% interest is literally $1 million. So it definitely makes a difference where you're putting your money and how much is it growing. A lot of people don't know where to find 3% interest, let alone 6, let alone 9. That's when you could work with somebody like me, because we have strategies and accounts that can get you that type of interest rate. I mean, if we look at 2019, the stock market performed upwards of almost 30% last year. Is that every year? No, absolutely not. Can I guarantee that every year? No. But why would I have my money sitting in a bank account earning 1% interest when I could earn 20% or more? So again, it makes sense. It's not enough to just put money away and set it aside somewhere. We want to actually grow our money as well and be smart about it. Try to earn as much interest as we can. So another quote from the book, How Suckers Think. I work so hard for my money. I just want to put it away and keep it as safe as possible. That's somebody who'll put their money in the bank. They save. They just put it in the bank. This is how wealthy people think. I work hard for my money, so now it's going to work for me as hard as possible. The wealthy will put their money and savings into accounts that will earn them interest and pay them back. So again, we want our money to work for us, not us continue to work for our money. So I want to take another pause. Any questions about that interest? That's kind of probably the most technical section of this whole class. Any questions about any of that? Okay, I don't see any coming in. Let's talk about the time value of money. I think I'm going to briefly go through this section. So what the time value of money is that it's just that, time is our greatest asset when it comes to saving money. Just think about how many years do you have left to pay off your mortgage, or for your kids to go to school, or for you to retire. Whatever the goal is, like when I talk to people about investing and saving, my first question is, well, how much time do we have? Do we have a 10-year time frame? Do we have a year? Do we have 30 years? The time frame really does make a difference, and we have to consider that when it comes to our finances. And the 3 things that we want to do, first of all, when we want to leverage our time, remember that's your greatest asset that you have is time. Any time that you have. Number one is start now. I always get this question, well, Shantae, when should I start saving my money? You know, something's always coming up, or maybe I might have a job, maybe I won't have a job. I'm like, start now. Now is always the best time to start, because you know, it never stops. Like there will always be something that'll come up, right? Like there's always an emergency. It's always something. Like there's never no perfect time to do any of this. So we just want to start. Another thing that we talked about already is just to start saving regularly, save consistently. That's my biggest thing, because I tell people, like, look, especially like my clients, I don't care how much money you have to save. Like I don't have a requirement on, oh, you have to have X amount of dollars for me to decide to work with you. That's not the case at all. What's important to me is that you're serious about your money and that you're ready to commit to something on a consistent basis to set aside. I don't care if it's $5 a month or $500 a month. I don't care, as long as it's consistent, whatever you're doing, because then I know that I'm helping you build that muscle, that good money habit of just setting aside money. You know, sometimes it's just hard to say, I need to pay myself first. I need to put this money aside for me first. And then the other thing is just be patient. You know, when it comes to finances, it takes time to save. It takes time to accumulate anything. Like if you come to me and say, oh, I want to double or triple my money in a year, I'm like, I'm not the one for you. I can't do that. Like you have to be patient. You got to think about where you are with your finances. Like if you're 50 years old, it probably took you 30, 35 years to get your finances to where they are. So you can't think that overnight that they'll just change. They won't. You know, we have to give ourselves time and patience just to let these strategies work themselves out. So those are the first three things that we need to do to leverage the time value of our money. And this is one of my favorite charts to show. I don't care how old you are, starting as soon as possible, it will make a difference. Even if you delay a year, or if you delay 2 years, you want to start right away. I want to go through this example here of two people who are saving money. We have Sarah and we have George. So Sarah is 22. She's young. You know, Tammy, this could be your daughter. You know, young adult, starting to save money. She's just getting her job started, you know, doing pretty well for themselves. You know, she's 22. She starts saving $333 a month. And then she said, you know what? I did this for 7 years. I'm stopping. I'm 29. I'm about to hit 30. I'm done saving money. That's it. So she puts in this example, this account is earning 9% interest. So she puts in $32,000 and stops. She said, I'm done. I'm going to let that account just stay in there. It's going to continue to earn 9% interest. That $32,000 that she put in has now grown to over $1.4 million by the time she's 67 and ready to retire. So 7 years of just being consistent, setting aside that money, only put in 32,000, it grew to over 1.4 million. Not bad. That's a great concept to teach our young adults, right? What about George? He's older. He started saving at 30. He was like, you know what? I'm 30. I didn't want to save out of college because I was partying. You know, I was getting my life together. Now I got it together. Now I'm going to start saving. So he didn't save until he was 30. Remember, Sarah, on the other hand, she got on top of it right away. She said, I'm going to start saving right away. He said, you know what? No, I'm going to wait till I'm 30. He decides to save the same exact amount of money, $333 a month. And he stops once he turns 67. So George, he puts in $151,000 and his account only grew to $1.3 million. So we got to think about this. Hold on. First of all, Sarah, she only put in 32,000 and her account grew to over 1.4 million. Why is it that George put in 5 times the amount that she did and his only grew to 1.3 million? The only difference again is the time. Sarah started early. She started sooner than he did. He did not take advantage of those 7 years to grow his money. He didn't even put in as much. She put in way more than her and didn't even catch up. Imagine if Sarah kept saving that $333. This would probably be $4 or $5, $6 million if she kept saving. So the whole point of this illustration is that time makes a difference. You want to start right away. I don't care how old you are. Just start now. Let's not delay, because every single month, every single year that you delay, you just get yourself further and further away from your goal, and you have to put more in. And I think my next slide will talk about that. Yeah, the longer you wait, you just have to put more in to catch up, every single month. Yeah, here it is. So a lot of people say, well, what would it take to earn $1 million, right? Like $1 million is kind of like that magic number when it comes to saving money for retirement. So we already know the longer you wait, the more you save. And again, these are hypothetical examples of people who are earning 9% interest in their, accounts, wherever they're saving their money. So if you're 20 years old, you only need to put in $113 a month in an account that's earning 9% interest, and you'll accumulate that $1 million. But let's say you're 30 now, you're delaying, I wanted to wait till I get my life together. Now I'm 30, I want to start saving. That person now needs to save $282 a month to accumulate $1 million. What if you're 45? You're like, I want to be a millionaire by the time I retire. Now you actually need to put in $1,200 a month to earn, to accumulate that $1 million. And then here's an example. If you're 60, you only have 7 years left now to accumulate that amount. You need to put in over $8,500. And of course, nobody has that type of money. Nobody probably has the $400, $700. The whole point is that the longer you wait, the more you put in. So that's why I like to teach our young adults, like, look, $113, that's not a lot of money if you think about it. I mean, we could blow $100 so easy. That's one Amazon order from me or one Target run. $100 gone for nothing. Like, stuff I didn't need. But imagine teaching your 20-year-old this, that, wow, just save $100. You could probably get close to $1 million by the time you retire. So I think it's just really important to let people understand those type of concepts of what does it take? It boggles my mind when people think that money's just going to fall out the sky. It's not going to fall out the sky. We have to take personal responsibility to do this, to figure out how much we need to save. So, I mean, just think of your current age right now. Just kind of think of, your own situation. What's your current age? Write it down. Based on that chart that I just showed you, how much money did you need to save each month? I hope you looked at it. I'm probably closer right here, that 35, 45 mark. I know that I need to probably save about $500 a month if I was starting right now to accumulate $1 million. Take a screenshot of this if you can, or if you haven't already. But again, this is in the book. And all of you guys will be getting a copy of it. And think about, what's that monthly amount if I wait 5 years? If I don't start now, if I'm 35 and I need to put in $450, what if I wait? If I delay it again, now I got to put in $730. And the last question is here, who else do you know that needs to see this chart? Who else can you share that with to give them a kind of a wake-up call? If you got a copy of the book, or if it's on the way, share that book with others so that they too can learn about how to think about, wow, if I really want to save some serious money, I need to start working on that right now. I think this is my last slide for this section. Yeah. So again, another quote from the book, How Do Suckers Think? I know saving is important, but right now it's just not a good time. It's never a good time, right? How the wealthy think. Look, here's the deal. Time is money. Every day counts. I need to start building my financial future now. So again, what do we think? Are we the sucker, or are we thinking wealthy? Those are the things that we want to think about. So I'm going to pause my screen. Any questions? Anyone have any questions coming up? I'm just going to keep I'm going to skip over this next section because it's not in the book. Okay. And feel free to type it into the chat box if anything comes up. Feel free to do that. So my favorite concept, I'm going to try to get through this in the next less than 10 minutes that we have. The rule of 72. I love it. It's my favorite part of the book. When I first learned this concept, it blew my mind. It forever changed the way I thought about my money. And why? Well, the rule of 72, what is it? It's a mental math shortcut for how long it takes your money to double, wherever you're saving it. So think about, where am I saving my money right now? If I keep it in that particular account, if I continue earning that particular interest rate, how long will it take my money to double? Well, what you do is you take 72 divided by your current interest rate, and that's how many years it will take for your money to double. So let's look at a couple examples here. What if you had your money in the account earning 1% interest, which a lot of people do? 72 divided by 1 is 72. So if you continue to keep your account in the bank, pretty much anywhere in the bank, it's going to take you 72 years to double your money. You probably won't even see it double. because it's going to take so long for that money to grow. But let's look at other interest rates and think about how long will it take our money to double. Remember, we were talking about, what if I found an account that gave me 3% interest? Well, then it'll take your money 24 years to double. What if you found an account that gave you 12% interest, on average? Then your money will only take 6 years to double. So whatever interest rate that you are earning on your money, divide that into 72, and it will tell you how many years it will take for your money to double. So let's just kind of think about it. This is Zoe. She's that young college girl. When you read the book, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to meet different characters. So she's 19 years old and she just received a $10,000 inheritance. Like, I would love to be Zoe. Like, I didn't get nothing. When nobody dies in my family, I'm getting nothing except my mom, because I got life insurance on her. But, she's lucky enough to get a $10,000 inheritance. And she's like, how can I grow this money to $1 million? What interest rate do I need to earn? Well, if we look at the chart, we could see having that $10,000 interest. Alex, are you agreeing with me? She gave me a thumbs up. She's probably like, I'm not getting any inheritance either.
Yes, I ain't getting a dime.
Right. Right. Like, who family is that? It's not mine. Not mine at all. So you have $10,000, this 19-year-old. If we look at the different interest rates that she'll earn, 6% interest will give her $160,000 in the future. 9% will give her $640,000. Earning over that 9% interest will probably give her that $1 million. So you can see the higher the interest that you earn, the more times your money will double. So the question always is, well, how many times will my money double wherever I'm saving it? I want my money to double. I want it to triple. So earning 12% interest, it doubles 8 times because it's doubling every 6 years before Zoe retires. And imagine a 19-year-old making that one smart financial decision, taking that $10,000, setting it aside, and growing it over to $2.5 million. And we can do that. That's things that are very realistic. A lot of people ask me, well, Shantae, where can I get 12% interest? There's a lot of places out there that you can get that. Very unique strategies. Connect with me afterwards and we'll have a conversation about that. But let's look at this 1% example. 72 divided by 1. Remember, we said it takes 72 years to double. When we look at how much money is in a bank, there's almost $10 trillion just sitting in money market. Money market is basically the equivalent of cash, and savings accounts that are earning actually less than 1%, 0.09%. That's the average interest rate that's earned on money sitting in the bank account. Tammy's like, where do we get that 12%? Don't worry, Tammy, I got you. But look at this. This is where people keep their money. They're earning 0.09% interest on average. If you take that and put it into 72, divide 72 by that, 800 years for that money to double. So in other words, $1 in 2020 would become $2 by the year 2820. Like, would there even be an earth by then? Like, that's crazy, but this is where people put their money, earning 0.09% interest. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, I need to make sure no matter where I save, every single dollar, I wanted to earn some type of good interest rate. But, I talked all about the good side of the rule of 72. The rule of 72 can also work against you. And that's when it comes to your debt. 17% interest is actually the average interest rate that we pay on credit cards. 72 divided by 17 is 4.2 years, So let's just think about this. If I had a credit card debt, whatever it is, $10,000, $1,000, and I'm paying 17% interest on that debt, you mean to tell me that $10,000, if I don't pay it off, it will double in 4 years? Yes, it will. And that's the reason why we have a lot of trouble when it comes to our credit card debt. Because we're paying so much in interest. I mean, and like I said, when we think of the rule of 72, it works the other way. Let's say if I have a $500,000 retirement account and I'm 57 years old. So she says, if I wanted my money to double by $1 million, I can divide 72 divided by 10 to get the interest rate I need. Yeah. So however many years, so in this example, let's say you are 50 years old and you want to retire at 60. You have 10 years left. So if you divide 72 divided by 10, that will tell you how much interest rate you need to earn on your money, wherever you're saving it, to make it double by that time. So think of every goal that you have. How much time do I have left to reach that goal? I know, Alex, we talked about retiring early, right? We know how many years you have to do that. So we know how much interest rate you need to earn on your money. Yeah, and Tina, she wrote in the chat box, I'm intrigued by the rule of 72. I know, Tina, me too. When I first learned it, it blew my mind. You know, and again, how the suckers think. The rule of 72 sounds like math, boring. The wealthy people say, wow, the rule of 72, that's simple, powerful, and practical. You know, again, I'm gonna go back to this slide here. Where was it? This one. This is what matters. The interest rate that you earn on your money. You know, how much money, how much interest rate are you getting? Are you earning less than 1%? Or are we earning upwards of 9-12% interest? So I think that might be, I got through that quicker. I did skip a lot of stuff. Yeah, okay. So just a couple final slides here. So once you know how money works, you're going to start thinking about this stuff, right? You're going to start asking yourself questions. Number one, is a bank account the best place to put my money? I know a lot of people who put their money in the bank. You know, am I willing to settle for 1% interest or even 2%? What if I could get 4 to 6% or even higher? You know, what type of high interest accounts provide that safety? You know, because when you think about growing your money, you also have to realize there's a risk as well. So as much as you could grow it, there's also opportunity that you could lose it. So there are strategies out there where you can earn that high interest rate, but do it safely, meaning you don't lose. What about your current car note or your mortgage? You know, can you refinance to earn a lower interest rate? Because remember, we said the rule of 72 can work for you in your savings, but it works against you with your debt. So can we refinance? You know, our mortgage right now is a perfect time to refinance while interest rates are still low for car loans and mortgages. Will the financial institution managing my money earn more interest than I will? Absolutely. You know, think about that. Where do we get, so we put our money in the bank, right? And they give us the savings account of like 1%, maybe 2%. That same bank, let's say Capital One, they're notorious for giving anybody with a pulse a credit card. So let's say Capital One issues you a credit card. So they give you 2% interest on your savings, but then they charge you 17-18% interest on your credit card on the same money. So of course they're making money. The banks understand the rule of 72. That's how people stay in debt. And then what do they tell you on your credit card statement? Oh, just pay the minimum balance. You don't need to pay it off. Just pay us the little bitty amount so we can keep this account alive, because they know that debt will double in the future, you know, 3-4 times every 3 or 4 years. So banks definitely understand the rule of 72, and they know how to take advantage of making you pay them money versus them paying you money. And then the last question is, will I get enough doubles during my income earning years to reach my goals for retirement? If not, what do I need to change? You know, what do I need to do differently with how I'm saving my money to grow it better? So this is the end of the class. This section is the first half of the book. So when you get the book, this is the first 3 chapters. The last section is called the 7 Money Milestones. And actually, that's what the second class will cover. It's actually not out yet, but it's my favorite part of the book. So if I mailed it to you, I probably put a sticker on there and said, hey, this is my favorite part of the book. I love the 7 money milestones, because now that you've learned these things, the next question is, well, what should I do? What are the next steps that I should take to earn, you know, better interest, to get a better strategy in place? That's when you would learn, that's what you'll learn in the 7 money milestones. So that's the second part of the book. And it talks about, you know, getting your financial education. It talks about proper protection, which is all things insurance, saving an emergency fund, managing your debt, increasing your cash flow, building your wealth. That's a lot about their interest rate, earning the high rate of returns, and protecting your wealth. That's creating a legacy. That's protecting your money, having a will set up, a trust set up, power of attorney document. So if you work with me, we actually already talk about these directly, but the book reinforces it. The 7 money milestones are the roadmap to your financial security and independence. I think I have a couple more slides here. You know, when you read the book, there's a lot of strategies that you'll learn about. You know, what can we put our money where there's zero market risk, where I don't have to worry about losing my money. There's strategies out there for that. There's strategies that'll help you take care of long-term care expenses. tax deferred growth. So even though I talked a lot about like that 9% compounding, remember how I kept talking about compounding interest? How can I grow my money though with deferring taxes? You know, we don't think about taxes when it comes to our money. What about how can I grow my money and never pay taxes on it in the future? Or what about growing my money and passing it on tax-free? That's creating a legacy. So these are a different list of strategies that, you know, the book will talk to you about, but that I can talk to you about directly as well. And then, you know, like I said, taxes is a huge conversation that a lot of people don't think about. You know, you got to think about, where am I paying taxes? Am I paying taxes on the seed, which is the money that I start with now? Or am I paying taxes on the harvest, which is the big amount that it'll actually grow to? You know, there's different ways that you can pay taxes, which are on tax now accounts, tax later accounts, tax never accounts. So again, this is just a little preview of part 2 of the masterclass. I have not scheduled it yet. It's actually not available just yet, but it's in the book. So if you've requested a copy of the book, you'll have this information to read about. And then lastly, the one thing I always encourage people to do is just to look at your current situation. You know, where do you stand? So there's a worksheet in the book that you can start filling out to answer your own personal questions. You know, what are my goals? How much money do I have? What life insurance do I have? So you'll be able to do this money discovery worksheet. It's in the book itself, but if you want an actual PDF copy, I'm trying to look down at the book. Or is it in the book? Yeah, it's in the book. I'm like, where is it? It's like the last 2 pages in the book. But if you want a PDF copy of this, just send me an email. I'll be happy to send it to you so you can print it out, you know, and fill in your answers as well. And I think that's it. Yeah, so that's it. The masterclass, it starts here. I just want to share my website so that if you want to get in contact with me, obviously my phone number and email address is down there. And while I pull up my website, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. If you have any questions about anything, if there's anything you want to share about this masterclass, feel free. Was this information helpful to learn about?
This Alex, I just want to say that this was very helpful. I'm learning just a lot from you, and the short time I've known you, you really helping me think about a lot of different things. So I'm excited to be working with you and to be learning so I can just be better financially.
Yeah, Alex, likewise. I'm happy to work with you as well. And Tina, I know she put in the chat, it was very helpful. Tammy, I'm definitely going to get you that PDF. I just wanted to go to my website. So I know I market a lot of ways. A lot of you know me through my work that I do with the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. Some people have just been referred to me. I have my own other business called Native American Financial Literacy Services. So I'm like all over the place, but my message is the same. So I really just want you to write down this website, howmoneyworks.com/Shantae W. Moore. This is where you can go to, if you don't have the book yet, if you want to kind of get a preview of what's in it, go to this website. You'll be able to learn about the book. You'll get to see some of the other concepts and other videos. But I just clicked on this little there's a little drop down thing up here in the corner. So when you click on this, my information is there. If you want to call me, feel free to text or call this number. But if you want to talk to me directly, go ahead and schedule an appointment. And then there's also a link to my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is pretty general. I'm going to start posting a lot more videos, but I definitely post a lot of videos about just different topics. I'm going to start doing some storytelling, just kind of real life situations that I hear about that are crazy. But, you know, check me out on YouTube. But I just wanted to share that information with anyone if you wanted to connect with me after this webinar. So otherwise, I think I pretty much have all of you all's contact information, but otherwise just get in contact with me there. So any other questions? I'm so glad that everyone joined. I'm happy it was a small group. I wanted to keep it intimate. So I'm glad that everybody was able to get on. Any other final thoughts or questions?
Thank you so much. It's very helpful. It's helping me to change my mindset, like I chatted in the group. So
yeah,
appreciate you.
I know, you know, Tammy, I've been emailing you for like 3 or 4 years.
Hey,
we finally connected this year.
I'm ready.
It's a good thing I'm consistent.
Yes.
I know we have a lot of work to do. You're welcome, Tina. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you guys for joining me so much. It was such a pleasure to see everyone and to join me. You know, continue looking out on my email list or YouTube. You'll see these communications come from me. So thank you all for joining me.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.